Everybody today. I am always happy to be here, always happy to see you guys. So, what I'm going to be sharing today is amazing, and it's something that I shared during the Mom So Hard virtual conference, and basically it's my story. It's going to be a little bit more condensed than it was during that conference, but I want you to get the juicy details because that conference is no longer available to watch unless you join my program, Mindset Mastery for Moms. Then you have lifetime access to the conference because it's in the member vault, along with 10 additional interviews that I did not have time to put in the conference. I couldn't squeeze them in, but they're awesome. And you get all the video modules, almost 30 video modules, and you get 30 plus worksheets that I've created. You also get membership to the private Facebook group. You get weekly group coaching from now until forever, and you get an hour of one-on-one coaching with me. So you get a lot. It's an amazing value. So what I want to, but that is, already having said that, let me just get into my story, because the title of this video is what does survival mode mean? And I feel like survival mode can kind of mean different things to different people, but I want to tell you what survival mode looked like for me, because this was not just a season of survival mode. This was almost 8 years of perpetual survival mode. Okay, let me tell you what it was like. So I want to ask you a question, though, in the beginning. What does it mean to live intentionally? You feel free to just pop it in the comments what you think it is to live intentionally, because I want you to hold that in your mind as I'm telling my story. I'm gonna circle back around to that. So, this is just my story of living in survival mode for 8 years. And so I was a pretender, okay? And I was filled with fear and self-loathing. And let me tell you, I was the least likely person to become a life coach or to teach mindset work or to tell my story and just put it out there for everyone to hear. I was the least likely person. I was the least likely person. Cannot talk. I was also the least likely person to organize and host an online conference. That was just not even on my radar, okay? And, and I'd always been afraid to dream big, but at the same time, deep down, I knew that I was meant for more than what I was doing. And I felt very directionless, but I was trying my best. I was trying the very best I could. So let me just give you a picture of my reality at this time in my life. So let me just go back 3 years ago, okay? Into what it was, I'd hit a really low point at that time. So I'd had 4 kids in 4 years, going back to maybe like 2018. I'd had 4 kids in 4 years, and I was not very far into my, still in the early years of my public school teaching career. And, if you know anything about teaching, it's not a walk in the park. It's a demanding job. And obviously 4 kids under the ages 4 and under, yeah, that's demanding too. So yeah, everything was demanding. I was very overcommitted, and everything in my life was a mess. I'm talking about my time. My schedule was a mess. My house was a mess. My purse was a mess. My relationships were a mess. My time management was non-existent. My thoughts were a mess. My feelings were a mess. I was just a hot mess. And I don't say that term as a term of endearment or making light of things. It was hard. It was rough. Okay. And one of the hardest things was I did not know who I was on the inside. That's, and so the combination of the stress, it was stress, like dumped on me, immersed in stress. And just no control in my circumstances, complete lack of control. But then there was also a lack of control inside of me. I was also, complete lack of control. I didn't know there was a correlation between my outer world and my inner world, okay? I did not know. And to be honest, I didn't even have time to put together a coherent thought. So I don't even know if it would have done me any good to even be aware of that at that time. So just picture this with me. My heart was to be a loving mom, okay? That was my heart's desire. And that's why I showed up at work every day as a teacher, to provide for my family. And that's why I did everything, was to be a loving mom. And I wanted my kids to grow up to be happy and secure. And, and I wanted what every parent wants. I wanted to give them a good life. I wanted to, I wanted to give them the life that they deserved. And I, kind of like Lisa Canning said in her talk in the conference, I was constantly plagued by guilt no matter what I did. If I was doing this, I felt like I should be doing this. If I was doing this, I felt like I should be doing this. And so every day I'd come home from work so tired, just so tired. And then my second shift started. Okay. So I'd unload the car, I'd cook. Sometimes we'd eat, I'd feed the kids, give them their baths, pack their diaper bag for the next day, maybe take a shower if I was lucky. And then I'd put the kids to bed and then I'd crash. So everything was just rushed, very, very rushed, very disorganized. And, mornings were also rushed. So every moment that I was at home was rushed. It was chaos. It was not how I envisioned myself being a mom before I became a mom. It was not the mom I wanted to be. And that dream of the mom that I wanted to be, it just felt impossible. It just felt so out of reach. And, I was massively in debt. I could barely even afford to buy my kids new shoes. It was awful. So, I felt like I couldn't be a good teacher because of all the demands of my family. And I felt like I couldn't be a good mom because of all the demands of my job. And I felt like both ends, I was burning the candle at both ends. I felt like both of those things would suffer inevitably. And I didn't have a lot of close friends. I didn't have a strong support network because I was afraid to let people in and let them see the real me. And I didn't want, I say this a lot, that it was my mom imposter syndrome. And by that, I mean, I was so afraid that people would find out that I was not the mom that I was pretending to be, that I was not the mom I was putting out there to be. And, basically, I was, I was just praying that a strong wind wouldn't come along and knock down my house of cards. I was holding it all together, struggling to hold it all together. And, the worst part of all this, that was all bad, but the worst part was knowing that my kids were growing up, seeing them grow up and, reach these milestones, and I wasn't there for them. I was not there physically, emotionally, mentally. And I'll never forget one day I went to pick up my kids at the babysitter, and this was a day that I was actually like super happy to go get them. I was always happy to see them, but I felt a little bit more energy this day. But I went to pick up, at that time I only had 2 kids, and I went to pick up my 2 kids from the babysitter, and she said, Annalie said her first word today. And I was like, what? I missed it? And it was mama. And she didn't even say it to me. I missed it. So that was really hard. That was really hard. And, it was just always rush, rush, rush. I felt like and even when I was with my kids, I was so stressed and so disconnected that they didn't get me. Even when they were physically with me, they were not getting my best. They were just barely getting anything from me. And I was exhausted. I was touched out. I was cranky. I was yelling at them. And, I think that survival mode is normal in certain seasons of life. Like if you're postpartum, survival mode is all that's expected of you. If you've lost a member of your family, or you're just going through something really stressful that's, a period of time, that is normal. It's necessary to allow yourself to be in survival mode, but not for almost 8 years. That is crushing. That is not what God intended for you. And I didn't take care of myself. And I was desperate for a change, okay? I was desperate. I was trying very hard. So I started trying doing, I tried a lot of things to get out of survival mode. So I read books on time management, on organization, on parenting. And I tried to implement strategies from these things, and it just didn't work. And I started 2 businesses, okay, during this time, because I'm like, okay, if I had extra money, maybe that would help. I could hire someone to help. It would open up more doors. I could pay off some of my debt. Both of those businesses failed. I put money into them, didn't get anything out, nothing worked. So that was just another failure to add to my list of failures. And, I didn't feel, this is so funny, I think, because I felt so icky trying to sell things to people. And now I just created a course on how to create a sales presentation. I think that's so cool, full circle. So, but, back to that time, I was just spiraling downward. I tried a lot of different things and nothing worked out. And so I reached a point that I just had to choose. I had to choose my dreams and my sanity, or my fear and insecurity. And that sounds like an easy choice, but when you tried everything to get out and you've been in that mode for so long, it's not an easy choice because you're risking failure again when you've already failed so many times. And because I did not want to be in survival mode, I did not want that life. And what I wanted was to thrive. I wanted success, but it didn't mean a lot of money or whatever. Money was important. I needed, I did want money, but that wasn't the only thing I was worried about. I wanted to live in alignment with my purpose. And I wanted to get out of just where I had been for so long. I wanted to be able to show up for my family and show up for my community and use my gifts in meaningful ways. And I knew there was a lot more to life than just waking up, surviving, rushing through the day, keeping everyone alive, hanging on by a thread, praying that I could just hold it all together and rinse and repeat every single day until I die. I knew there was more to life than that. I never gave up that hope, that vision. And, I knew that I had something more to offer my kids as a mom. I knew that. I never let go of that. And my dream at that time was I wanted to help other moms succeed. Even at that time, I knew that was my dream, was to help other moms succeed. And I wanted to empower moms who felt stuck, okay? So, but how could I, at that season of my life, how could I talk to other moms about empowerment when I was stuck in survival mode? How could I teach other moms? How could I put myself out there and teach what I'm teaching, basically what I'm teaching right now? How could I teach them how to live a successful life when I've been stuck in survival mode for so long and I was not living that life? How could I teach that? That didn't make sense. So, I was yelling and screaming at my kids and hating myself and didn't have a grip on anything. Who would want to listen to me? I couldn't do that. And, this cycle of repeat. So let me get to, that's what survival mode was like. But let me tell you about my transformation. And I know this video is going a lot longer than how long my videos typically go, but please just bear with me, hang with me, because I'm getting to the good part. So I had a friend who just always supported me for years. She always saw the successful person that was buried inside of all of that stuff. And she showed up for me all the time. She never stopped showing up for me. And her name is Terry. She's a member of my group, and she's just awesome. And and I can trace my transformation back to years of her showing up and pouring into me way before the transformation started. And, at some point along the way, I just started to realize, what? I do deserve this life. The life that I intend to have, that I've been dreaming of, I deserve it. And that was the first change. That was the beginning of my transformation. And another thing I realized, I'm holding me back. I'm the one who's holding me back. And that's a wonderful revelation. It's not something like, oh, you're the one who's holding you back. No, it's like, if I'm the one holding you back, then I have the power. It's within my reach to change it, to change my trajectory. So the first thing I did was I started loving myself. After I realized those two things, that I deserve it, that I'm holding me back, I started loving myself. And it felt very unnatural at first. Felt very like learning to ride a bike or learning to speak a foreign language. Like it just didn't feel right, but I stuck with it. And I started out little. I started out just loving myself in small ways. And you know what? The momentum started to build. And then I started loving myself in bigger ways. I started setting boundaries with people. I started taking care of myself. I cut out things from my life that weren't serving me. And I started looking inside myself for love, for approval. For answers. I started trusting myself to make the right decisions instead of constantly second guessing myself. That was huge. Like, that is a huge breakthrough. My anxiety dissipated. So many things started happening inside of me without the changes that I was seeing. And, without trying to fix the outside first. That was where things changed. And it felt good. And I started gaining momentum, and I was finally successful in something. I was sticking with something. But you know what? That was just the beginning, okay? And I started following people's podcasts who talked about this, and I started really pursuing personal development resources. And then through that, through my pursuit, really going after this information, I started learning that my thoughts were self-fulfilling prophecies. That the reason I'd been stuck in survival mode for almost 8 years was because of my self-talk that was on replay in my head for years and years, telling me all the negative things about myself, beating myself up. You know what I'm talking about. The voices that we hear in our heads that could be our voice or somebody else's voice or the voice of God or whatever that was dragging me down. You know what I realized I had the power to do? I had the power to change those thoughts. So I started doing it. That was a massive aha moment. And so I started shifting my thoughts. And I started, it was hard at first. Just like, learning to play the piano or something like that is hard at first. And I wanted to give up, but I did not. I just did it daily. I did it a little bit every day. And you know what? I was so glad that I got off that merry-go-round, because I really did. That was when I said goodbye to survival mode. That was me drawing a line in the sand and saying no more survival mode. And it was beautiful. And so, and you know what the best thing is? Well, all this is great, but a cool thing is I started seeing my outer circumstances change for the first time in a long time, and I celebrated every win. My productivity skyrocketed. Me of all people. Yeah, that was amazing. And I started giving grace to myself. I started enjoying my kids instead of just not even being there mentally. And I started practicing self-care. And I'm like, self-care? Oh my gosh, where's this been all my life? And I didn't even feel guilty about practicing self-care. And, other people started noticing massive changes in me. They're like, oh, you're so different. You seem so happy. I'm just noticing a lot of differences in you. So, and then I started my business as a life coach. I got training to become a life coach. I started that training because I realized that my purpose, that I was now going to live in alignment in, that, from here on out, I started pursuing the dream of empowering women who feel stuck in survival mode. Bam, right? Mic drop. So I started my Facebook group, Survival Mode to Successful Moms Creating Momentum. I started my website, jordanamrios.com. And I started advertising myself as a life coach and getting one-on-one clients. And, I planned and hosted the conference that was just last week, and it was amazing. And, I just, and a lot of that was also getting into Martha Krejci's program at the time. That was another big turning point. And I've got a link in the description of this video to HBR, which is Martha Krejci's program that you've probably heard me talk about a lot. That was another thing, because that gave me the support network and the skill set to do all that I'm doing right now and to make this something that's real and doable. And so, it was, that was huge. And so I just, it put rocket boosters on my business when I joined her program. So yeah, there's that. And I just want to tell you, it is never too late to start pursuing your dream. I don't care what stage of life you're in. I don't care how many times you failed and how long you've been stuck. It is not too late to start this journey towards success and leveling up in every area of your life. Literally, when you start this mindset work, you don't just see success in one area. You see success all over, because it's from the inside. And it's what success looks like for you, not for someone else. So that is why I created my signature coaching program, Mindset Mastery for Moms. You can also see the link in the description of this video. And, I asked you a question. This has been almost a 20-minute live. This is the longest I've ever gone live before. If you've stuck with me to the end, props to you. So let me tell you, I asked a question at the beginning of this video. What does it mean to live intentionally? And so basically it means everything I've just said. It means overcoming all the obstacles and fighting to love yourself. And it means showing up without any fear or insecurity, showing up for those that you love the most, your family and your community. And it means not depriving the world of the gift of your service. Because if you don't serve in the way that you were meant to serve, you're not going to be fulfilled, and the world is going to suffer, because there's going to be a need that's unmet. And, just being you, and, all of your other dreams are like the cherry on the top. really. And you're going to see that. And, that is so within the realm of possibilities for you. I'm here to tell you right now. And there's so much more available to you. So that is my story. That is what survival mode means. And that's also what it means to get out of survival mode. I will see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m.